We're going to change up the schedule just a little bit. We have our public hearing, which will begin at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. And because it is scheduled, published to go at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, we like to stay on track. And just for those of you that are with us today here in the room, if you do plan on visiting with the commission, please make sure that you've signed in with Liz, who is over here underneath. There she is, raising her hand.
She's back here.
Oh, she's back there with Nick. So if you would like to speak to the commission, we do ask that you sign in. So with that, what we are going to do is move down to number 7 on our agenda. This is the license fee package. And we'll take as much time as we need here up until 2 p.m. If we're not done by 2 p.m., we will break, and so we will stay on track to have our public hearing begin at 2 p.m.
Sorry about that, Madam Chair. Again, Scott Simpson, Deputy Secretary. Commissioners, Secretary Roebling, wanted to introduce and maybe go over some things that were started back in July as far as discussion about fees. We spent quite a bit of time in July down in Sioux Falls talking about where we are at as a department, what we have seen over the last 10 years, 5 years, what we've seen actually over the last 4 years with some economics maybe not working in our favor. And just wanted to give you a little history on that last month. Continue on with that conversation this month. I'll do a little bit of a background on some things, but heavy lifting is going to be done by Directors Kirchman and Van Meter, and they're going to present some things to you that hopefully move us in the direction of continuing that conversation about fees. First thing I wanted to bring up again that we visited about last month is that our system is a user pay, user benefit system. The folks that use state parks, the people that buy hunting and fishing licenses, when they pay into that system, they receive a benefit for that. Those dollars go back into fish production, infrastructure maintenance, their roads, their programs, they fund our walk-in program. They do all of those things. When those dollars come into the department, we try to send them right back out in the form of programs and infrastructure and opportunity. And there isn't general funds or a lot of general funds that come to the department to support the activities that we do every day. We receive about $4 million a year in the Parks Division. No federal, or excuse me, no general dollars, general funds within the Wildlife Division. It makes up about 3% of our total budget. So those general funds do. So primarily we are funded by the user pay, user benefit system, whereby people buy licenses, people buy camp, that they go to support the system and the programs that we use or that we provide. Talk about the last time that we were that fees were increased, 2014 on the wildlife side, so it's been 10 years. On the park side, 2019, only 5 years ago. But as I mentioned before, what we've seen happen in the last 4 years has really eroded the buying power of those dollars that were generated by that parks increase in 2019, and certainly has had an impact for the last increase that the wildlife fees saw in 2014. Cost of business has increased. There's no doubt about that. You've seen it in your personal lives. I don't care if you're a producer or a business owner or a person going to the grocery store, right? We have seen that cost of doing business go higher. Those inflationary increases in the last 4 years, the information that we provided last month, we've seen about 20% inflation over the last 4 years. And it has required our divisions, both Jeff and Tom, to make some adjustments, to reduce some spending, to leave some positions open, to cut back on some things in order for us to respond to what that purchasing power, what is done to the purchasing power of the dollar. So, yeah, cost of business has gone up, and we have made the adjustments to use the funds that we have available to us. Hopefully so that none of our folks see see any, I don't know why that happened, see any impact to services. And, so anyway, we took an inventory or an assessment and say, okay, what have we pulled back on? You know, some of those things, whether it's purchasing equipment, holding positions, reducing expenditures on different things. I mean, we have guarded those dollars, fairly well, I believe, and made the adjustments necessary over the last couple of years. And we went back and we said, all right, what does that look like? And we went to work with the budget subcommittee on July 24th, which is the timeline that we laid out to the commission last month. And we brought forward a package that identified fees, working with the subcommittee, that would take care of that need. What it would take to get us where we felt like we needed to be, to catch up on some of that deferred spending, to catch up on some of that deferred maintenance, to run things the way they should be run. And so we brought that package forward to the budget subcommittee. Budget subcommittee made some adjustments to that package. There was definitely, each one of you up here at the table feels a little differently about certain fees in certain areas, that some should be less, some should be more. Certainly understand that, but we worked through a lot of those things on July 24th and then obviously we shared that information with each commissioner individually, so that we've been able to get that feedback from you guys too. Just in general, I wanted to say that, as we move through this, we did not treat resident and non-resident fees equally. We didn't say, well, fees are going up by 10% across the board. Since the last fee increases, we've certainly had some conversations with different individuals, different groups. We've heard from our sportsmen, we've heard from our residents that, non-residents are probably getting a pretty good deal in South Dakota on some things. If you look around at some of those other states, and Tom and Jeff are both going to visit about some of these things, that it's time for some of those fees to go up, and what you're going to see is a package that probably identifies or does identify more increase for the non-residents than the residents. But both, we feel, keep licenses affordable, keep camping affordable, keep access affordable. That's one of our primary goals, is to make sure that we aren't pricing anybody out of the outdoor recreation business. And finally, as I said before, the additional revenue that will be generated from the fee package that you're going to hear about, where does that go? Yeah, there's some specific things, there's some programmatic things, but in general, and when we kind of look at this, the revenue that's raised on the wildlife side primarily goes to programs. Whether that's like I said, a walk-in program, whether that's working with a private landowner on some access, or some habitat work, whether it's ADC work, animal damage, whether it's WDM, it's primarily programs on the wildlife side. A little different on the park side. As you all know, you've seen enough of our the places that we manage. There's a significant amount of infrastructure that the Parks Division manages, and there's a significant amount of reinvestment that needs to go back into those facilities to make sure that they're in the shape that people want them to be when they show up. And that's primarily where the revenue from these proposed fee increases would go. So that's just a little bit of background. I don't want to take up all the time because these two are going to get to the meat and potatoes of it. But I'm going to come back up here when we're done, kind of wrap things up, and I'll let Jeff kick it off and work through the Parks Division recommendations.
Jeff, thank you.
Chair, Commissioners, Secretary Rowland, Jeff and Meter, Parks and Recreation Division Director. Scott said, appreciate his lead into this. I'm going to kind of start off with a little more lead in before we get into the individual fees. If you would turn though to item number 7 in your commission book and the second page behind the action sheet there. That's what I will be referring to today when we go through the park fees. So again, just a little background here as we we move through this. The majority of this revenue in this fee package is going to go towards our infrastructure needs or facility maintenance needs that we budget for every year. I'll show you some information here later on in the program, but we're looking to maintain on average about a $15 million capital or asset management program. So I'll get to that in a little bit. Cost of doing business as Deputy Director Scott mentioned has gone up as well. Cost of toilet paper, cost of electricity, just all those operational things that our users consume when they're using our parks. We've also tried to increase the use in our parks. That's always one of our goals. And the more you get, the more you have to spend to take care of those folks. So there is some of this fee package that would go towards those operational expenditures. But again, the bulk of it will go towards our asset management program. You know, one of our primary goals, and I just can't say this enough, Scott touched on it too, is we want to remain affordable. So we feel like all the fees we're recommending to you today still put us in that corner. We don't want to lose customers over this deal. You know, we're very mindful of the support we get. As Scott mentioned, we are a user pay, user benefit department for the most part, and you know, we depend on those folks. So again, we don't want to lose those folks. I think they like what they get in our park system. I think we have a great park system. We hear those comments all the time. We have looked at surrounding state rates. That was interesting. I think what we'll show you will put us, we'll still be in the ballpark of what those averages are around the surrounding states or still under. So a lot of things are going on in other states, just like we're talking here today too. Scott mentioned last fee increase was in 2019. So, you know, how do you approach something like this? You know, so we looked at what our needs are, not only today, but maybe over the next 5 years, and how could we average that out? So for us, we were looking at somewhere around a $4 to $4.5 million fee package to make that work. Adding roughly $4 million to our capital or asset management program, and $500,000 or so to our operations budget. You know, and again, those numbers are fluid. They depend on the weather, a lot of other factors, use, and that kind of stuff. But that was kind of our target. So that's why we ended up with what we're about to show you. So we'll get into that now. I'm going to break this into 4 different categories. So we're going to start off with park entrance licenses first. And some of these I'll go into a little more detail than others, but as you can see on here, the park entrance licenses roughly represent about half of our revenue that we generate in the park. So very important to us. We are recommending a small increase, 11%, $4 increase for residents to purchase their park entrance license. If they want a second one, we will continue that program where they can buy a double at half price. That would be a $6 increase on that. But something new this year is we're recommending a non-resident annual at a different rate. We've seen this trend with all the surrounding states. Just about all of them have adjusted their fees to some capacity. Some have doubled them. We are not recommending that. We're recommending going about 50% of what a resident pays. Again, we value our non-resident visitors, and we don't want to lose those folks. So you will see that we are recommending a non-resident annual cost $60. If they wanted to buy a second, it would be $90. That's approximately 50% more than what a resident would pay. With the transferable license, we always bump that up when we adjust our annuals. This year, the changes, we're recommending a $10 increase in that, but we're also recommending that would not be available to non-residents. Dailies, kind of following suit. you can do the math there. We're looking at a $2 increase for the resident daily, $7 increase for non-residents. We like that daily to be about 1/4 of what the annual costs. That's always been kind of our math, somewhere right around that. 4 days, if you stay in a park for 4 days, you could just as well buy the annual. The goal with the dailies, or the hope with the dailies, is more people would actually buy annuals. It's a better deal for them if they use the parks more often, and it's better for us as well. So you can see some of the other increases there on the Mickelson Trail. Those fees have not been increased for many years. Even before 2019, they were not increased at that time. We've also increasing the motor coach fee, $1 per person. That primarily only takes place out at Custer State Park. The one-day special event, I want to draw your attention to that a little bit. This is done per 50 people. So it's not a $50 increase per person. It's a $50 increase for 50 people. So basically, when you come to a park and you qualify for the one-day special event pass, right now you pay $1 per 50 people. We're suggesting that would be $2 for 50 people. And then you can see the other fee here at Custer State Park. We are adjusting the 7-day vehicle fee just by $5 to $25. And then again with our unattendeds, which we don't necessarily refer to as a ticket, but when somebody chooses not to purchase an entrance license at the gate, that becomes their daily license. Staff will put that on their windshield, much like a parking violation. And that user has the choice of treating that as a daily and just paying that fee, or they can turn that in and convert it to an annual. We waive the fee at that point if they buy the annual license. So those are our recommendations for our park entrance licenses. When you add them all up, it comes to just about $2.3 million. We'll move on to the next one here. We're going to talk about camping, but before we talk about our camping fee recommendations, I want to explain a major change in what we're doing right now. Right now, we have 4 different classifications of campgrounds. We have at the top the prime campgrounds, we have preferred campgrounds, we have modern campgrounds, and we have basic campgrounds. Historically, over the last couple decades, we have managed them on an occupancy basis. So if you're in a prime campground, you have to average over 95% occupancy on weekends. If you're in a preferred, it's 80. There is no class or percentage for modern. And then basic is just your campgrounds that don't offer any comfort stations. They're fairly primitive in nature, but yet they're used pretty well. But anyway, we're wanting to shift towards a 2 classification system, modern and basic. So we're going to go from an occupancy-based system to a facility-based system. So prime campgrounds, preferred, and modern campgrounds all have the same amenities in them. They all offer electricity, 20, 30, 50 amp electrical outlets. They all offer a comfort station, which offers flush toilets, showers. They offer some sort of hard surface campsite. Could be paved, could be gravel. And then they have a whole lot of other amenities like dump stations, picnics, playgrounds, picnic shelters, and they're usually staffed. And that is the definition of a modern campground. So those 3 classifications that are now all going to move up into that all offer those things. But in the past, we in a sense, we subsidized some of the modern campsites in the preferred, but we just can't, we no longer can afford to do that. So we want to just go to 2 classes of campgrounds. You'll either fall into the modern or the basic. The basic, on the other hand, typically do not offer electricity, only have vault toilets, do not necessarily have a hard surface. Well, they do not have hard surface campsites for the most part. They're grass. They're somewhat undefined, and then rarely are they staffed for any large portion of the day. They may have a ranger drive through. So there is a major distinction. roughly, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 90% of our campgrounds are modern. The other 10% are basic in nature. Those are ballpark figures. So, understanding that, moving into the fees, our goal with the camping, how we set out was to keep this affordable. We only really wanted to increase our camping $1, but we also needed to tackle our electrical rate. When we looked around at the other states, we were way under what everyone else is charging. Most states charge between $8 and $10 a night for an electrical site. We are recommending at the bottom of the sheet, you can see there, to move that up by $3 to $7. Camping in general is $1 with a few exceptions, and I'll go through those. If you look at the third line down, statewide modern, that is the grouping of those three different classifications. So we have a range of $16 to $22. That's what we currently charge in those campgrounds. The fee that we're recommending is taking those $16 sites and increasing them by $7, taking those $22 sites and increasing them by $1, so that they're all at the $23 mark. So if you add the electrical rate onto them, our average modern, or our modern campsite will now be $30, which is right in the ballpark or under what most states are charging for a similar campsite. So back up now a little bit and go to the Custer State Park, 2 campgrounds there, just adjusting them by $1. They've always historically been a little more expensive than the rest of the campgrounds, and we're going to leave them that way. There's quite a bit of demand out there. Statewide basic, we are moving that up by $5 to match it with our tent-only non-electric sites. We didn't feel it was really fair for somebody with an RV to come in and pay less to use a basic campsite than a person with a tent. So we're just simply matching those two rates. And then you can see the rest of those fees. There's a couple other park classifications in Custer where we're adjusting those by $1. Our camping cabins, the very popular camping cabins, we are recommending a $5 increase on those. Again, we did look at other states. Most states are between $60 and $90 a night for their camping cabins. So we're adjusting them we're recommending an adjustment of $5 to a fee of $60. Our modern cabins and suites, we're asking for a fee increase of $45 to expand the range that we have from 85 to 205 to 85 to 250. But at this time, we're not going to put that new rate on any of those. We just want the ability to adjust down the road when we need to. Then we have a couple other lodges at Shade Hill and Oahe downstream where we're making some small increases, $20 to $25, just again based on use, and then I touched on the electrical fee. So all that together comes up to about $1.46 million of revenue. The next category is our miscellaneous fees. A little background on this. Firewood, why the odd number, 72 cents? We do pay taxes on this. So at the park, it will actually be a $7 bundle of wood. That's the difference between $6.72 and $7 is the taxes. Then the other reservation fees there, important for you to know this and understand this. Our whole goal is to drive people away from the call center and to go online. It costs us $1 every time somebody makes an online reservation. It costs us $6 if they make a call center reservation. We have historically always charged our non-residents a little higher fee when they make a reservation. So we're suggesting when they use the online service that we would like to increase that by $2.30. It would cost them $10 to make a reservation. That could be for one night or it could be for 14 nights. They pay that fee one time. Our call center the call center fee for non-residents, though, we're suggesting it go up to $6.30. That would be $16. Again, we're hoping that they have the option of going online, and most people do that. We've seen a good increase in our online sales as compared to the call center sales with our reservations. And then our residents have never really paid the true costs of what it costs to make a call center reservation. So we're suggesting we add $4, or recommending we add $4 to that fee increase so that they pay the actual cost of making a reservation, which is $6. If a resident wants to go online and make a reservation, there is no cost for a resident. It's free. Then we have a couple catamaran storage fees that we're just increasing to kind of keep up with. We do these every once in a while, just trying to stay relevant with the times and what people pay out in the rest of the world. So those fees add up to about $200,000, a little over $200,000. And then the last categories are resident boat registration fees. Now, the important thing to note here, these are fees that residents pay only. These are not non-residents, just residents. These were last adjusted 10 years ago. So we're suggesting an increase of $5 for boats that are 19 foot or under. Boats that are over 19 feet pay $10, and non-motorized boats would pay $3. You can see the recommended fee or fee increase there of 30, 55, and 18. That would generate a little over $400,000. So, question is, where's all this money going to go? I just showed you $4.368 million. See that at the bottom of your sheet there. Important for you to know. Again, the bulk of this is going to go into our asset management program. This is funding all those development projects that we care for across the state. We have 8 million visitors that use our parks annually. Over 350,000 camping nights. We have roads, 300 plus comfort stations, playgrounds, beaches, boat ramps, all those things that we have to regularly do maintenance to, docks and all that kind of stuff. And the inflationary costs that we've experienced here in the last 4 years have just gone through the roof. We've seen 35 to 40% increases in a lot of the stuff we used to pay less for. We kind of went through some of those examples last month at the commission meeting, or in July, I should say. We want to target a $15,000 annual budget for that over 5 years. We would start out, as you can see by that graph, a little heavy at 16. That would be infusing $4 million. Did I say 16,000? I meant 16 million, excuse me. Wish it was that cheap. We're going to infuse $4 million into the $12 million fee or amount we have right now. That would get us back on track to accomplishing a lot of the projects that we've kind of deferred, frankly, because we just didn't have the money. Over time, that line tends to drop. The reason for that is we shift those monies into operations. We have to take care of our parks on the local level. That comes first and foremost. That's our managers paying the electrical bill, paying the supplies bills, buying nails, buying lumber, all that kind of stuff. That has to come first. But just as important for us is maintaining those facilities for the long haul. So that's what we use the asset management program for. A lot of times we refer to it as a capital development program. That's what that is. So our goal is to be somewhere around that $4 million, to use somewhere between $3.7 and $4 million of these new fees into that program. Here's some of the things we would do with that $3.7 million. I won't go through these projects, but you can kind of see most of them are nuts and bolts things that we just got to maintain. Doing some remodeling work on a cabin, to putting up a boundary fence at one of our park areas, doing some renovations to a cold storage building. They're pretty nuts and bolts things that a lot of us do with our own places. And they touch all parts of the state. This is the Southeast region's list. Swim beaches, comfort stations, fishing piers, just maintaining the buildings and the infrastructure we have out there. Central region, we have some big projects like West Bend Shoreline Restoration. Right now we have a a situation where, we need to do a riprap project down there to kind of save the front edge of our park. That alone is a $700,000 project. These aren't cheap. And then the West region, which we're in here today, see the examples there listed. All those projects add up to roughly $3.7 million that I just ran through. The other side of the equation is the operations side. This is the park managers on site and their staff working to take care of those customers that come in, those 350,000 camper units, so 8 million visitors. This is the maintaining of those buildings, maintaining the grounds, paying the utility bills, the monthly utility bills, just employing the staff. We use a lot of summer staff rather than employ people year round. We infuse our park operations with a lot of summer staff, and they work 3 to 4 months out of the year. Doing that work for us while the visitors are there. Just like all of us, costs of vehicles have gone up, costs of driving to places, just paying our fleet and travel bill to take care of those things. Our capital asset expenditures, that's our equipment. Could be, we have a fleet of mowers, fleets of tractors, just all those kind of pieces of equipment that we have to take care of our parks. Then we have other expenses like communications and technology too that we get hit with every month. They're all going up. So that's what these dollars would go towards. Just to summarize, our fee package again, we operate on our user pay, user benefit system for the most part. We, as Deputy Secretary Scott mentioned, we do get $4 million through the general fund. All of that $4 million goes to pay a portion of our seasonal salaries. That's it. We don't use it anywhere else. We depend on our camping and entrance fees. We last saw an increase in 2019. The cost of business is going up, as we talked about here. We really want to remain affordable. We hope that the lion's share of folks out there will see these fees as still affordable. They may not like it, but they also like what they get in the products that we offer and manage. So that's our goal. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to take any questions, or are we going to save that for the end?
Let me see if we have any questions for your section. Any questions for Director Van Meter and Commissioner Beese?
Commissioner Reese, Jeff, as you was going through that, you mentioned that, the increase is 11% increase. And then, but I also stated that we are under a 20% increase at cost of doing business. And then down below 35 to 40% increase in supplies. To me, that 11% is not covering our costs. So are we cutting somewhere else, or is 11% really going to be enough to do what we need? Is it kind of a Band-Aid thing for a year or two? Do you believe this 11% will last for 5 years, 6 years to cover what we need?
Through the chair.
Yes, please.
Yeah, great question, Commissioner Beese. If you're just to look at those percentages, you're absolutely right. We did not take that approach of just going 20% across the board. So as an example, the non-resident PEL fee is going up 66%. So just like our parks across the state, some make a little more money than other parks, some subsidize other parks. We've kind of looked at an across the board fee package. Some fees we tried to maintain, in my opinion, for the sake of not losing, to maintain, be affordable and not lose people. And that resident PEL fee is a great example of that. We want that to be affordable for everybody to come in. But then we did raise other things that well exceed 11%. So yeah, it's not just an across the board fee increase. Does that answer your question?
Additional questions or comments? Jeff, I do have one, and it kind of piggybacks on what Commissioner Beese kind of brought up. when we were looking at this, and I know Director Kirschman will talk about some of the cuts that the department had to make over this past year, what did that look like for the Parks Division?
Madam Chair, yeah, so the last couple of years, we have, been operating, trying to save somewhere around $800,000 to $1 million in internal costs, mostly on the operations side. But we also cut out roughly, $2.5 million of projects on the development side. So that's where we've saved. Now, the operations side, things were like, not so much this past year, but the year before, we sat on 10 positions that we did not fill for a great part of the year. The last couple of years, we've cut out $100,000 per region, $400,000 across the division in capital asset equipment expenditures. Those are the kinds of things we can do short term, but long term, that's where this fee package would go to replace some of those monies. If we continue that, we're gonna get ourselves into a bad spot where we don't have the equipment to take care of our parks. Or we deferred our maintenance on some of those large projects to the point where we're in a really big hole. So.
Very good, thank you for that. Commissioner Beast.
Yeah, Jeff, I got one more question. Has it ever been looked at? I know this has to go to the legislators and everything to get approved. Has there ever been looked at a plan to go off CPI per year? Instead of just sitting, waiting, and then all of a sudden can we go off like CPI's like 3%, or if it's down to 2%, that automatically come in and adjust those fees for that rate? Would that help keep us caught up on a more regular basis?
Through the chair, Commissioner Reese, I'm not familiar with having those discussions at that level. Have we looked at that? I'm sure we've talked about it at times. We don't like to increase fees if we don't have to, you know. That would maybe be easier, but I think the way we're doing it seems to work for us. Certainly another approach though. So thanks.
Additional questions? Seeing no questions, Commissioner Whitmire.
Yeah, Commissioner Whitmire, yeah, thank you. You did mention reaching out and kind of doing a little bit of a work on researching other states and where they're at. Specifically on the park entrance, they see that residents are paying the same as non-residents for park entrance, the $36, and we're basically adding an extra 20 to make it about 50% more expensive for non-residents for park entrances. Is that kind of what you're seeing, for our neighboring states and around the country, is, a significant higher park entrance fee for non-residents when we look around?
Through the chair.
Yes, please.
Commissioner Whitmire, yeah, I'll just give you a couple of examples. Right now in Nebraska and Wyoming, as a resident, you would pay $35 for your park license. In Nebraska, you would pay $48 for your park license in Wyoming. If you're a non-resident, you pay exactly twice that, $70 and $96. Montana and Colorado operate kind of on a different fee system that uses a license plate, where they give residents the option of opting in to a park license. But if they don't, then they pay the non-resident rate. Non-resident rate in Colorado is $80. Non-resident rate in Montana is $50. So it's kind of all across the board. About the only state right now that doesn't seem to have this on the radar is North Dakota, but most of the other states are talking about it. It's something we've talked about for years. Just like to remain tourism friendly. We depend on our non-resident visitors. We don't want to lose those folks, but we also hear comments from our residents, especially the fishermen, or campers when they don't get a campsite and they see the guy from a different state next to them, and so we think this will go not only a ways in helping with that concern from them, but also helping us with our revenue needs. So
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just, no, I think makes good sense, and I was kind of expecting, that's probably what, your answer was going to be. But just overall too, I don't think this is excessive in 11%. Certainly it was 5 years ago in the case of camping versus wildlife, what have you, but, yeah, there've been a lot of increases, so, no, I think you've done a good job, and thank you for going through the work on this. Maybe just one more comment. Overall, we've discussed FTE, full-time employee equivalents. We've not grown, I mean, the department GFP has not grown. This isn't about we're not growing the department, we're growing staff numbers. This is all just to offset increases that we incur, and so we can continue to operate with the expected level of quality and services that we're doing. So I just, for wildlife as well, same situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Secretary Roebling?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Director Van Meter, can you just articulate of the fees we're looking at here today, what is the percent increase of those fees?
Of these fees, Secretary Roebling, the percentage increase is 20.2% across the board when you look at them all collectively.
Very good. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Director Van Meter, we are at 1:52, and I'm guessing that 8 minutes, would that be enough? No. So what we are going to do at this point, for those that are with us here in the room and joining us online, we are going to take a break until 2 p.m. to allow us to stay on track for our public hearing and open forum. And once those are complete, we will come back and hear from Director Kirschman. With that, we will be at ease until 2 p.m. Mountain Time. And welcome back, everyone. We are live. We are going to adjust our schedule just a little bit, and I do apologize. We have an individual that had submitted a petition, and I understand we have some time constraints. And so to accommodate this individual for being here with that petition, is that okay? I'm getting the yes. We are going to move to item number 6 on the agenda. This is Prairie Spring Turkey Hunting Season, and I see Director Kirschman is here, so I'll let you take the mic, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Tom Kirschman, Director of the Wildlife Division. So in your booklet, item number 6 is a petition that was submitted by Mr. Pat West, and he is present here today. Again, this is a petition that he has brought forward asking for a change in respect to the draw structure of the spring turkey hunting season. So I think before I give any other comments, we should give Mr. West the opportunity to come up to speak to the commission, explain what change he is requesting, the reasons why, and then I will follow up with additional comments. So Madam Chair, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. West.
Very good, thank you.
They didn't tell me I was gonna have to arm wrestle Tom on this deal.
That's later.
Commissioners, Madam Chairman, Secretary Roebling, thank you again for allowing me to be here. My name is Pat West. I am a South Dakota Meade County resident, also a hunter, and representing the South Dakota Landowner Outfitter Alliance. Just want to speak briefly on requesting an administrative rule change. I assume that's what you would call that for Prairie Spring turkey application process. Currently, when applying for a Prairie Spring turkey tag, the first and second drawings are available to resident and non-resident hunters in their respective drawing units. The third drawing is where I would like to draw your attention to. In the third drawing, leftover licenses are pulled together for resident and non-resident hunters and available to both, even if you possess a license from a drawing on the first or second one. Currently in this third drawing, any resident or non-resident that has a license, along with those hunters that have not drawn a license, are competing for the remaining leftover tags. An example, I have family and my boys currently serving in the Marine Corps in California. If they miss out on the first and second drawing, they have to compete in the third drawing for somebody else, with somebody else that already has a tag. So I'm looking for a change on that. We're requesting a change to this rule. We're asking to allow those that do not already possess a license the ability to apply for one license in this third drawing. Those that have already drawn a license in the first or second drawing would not be allowed to apply in the third drawing. This would eliminate hunters with licenses having to compete against others that already possess a license. For subsequent drawings, remaining licenses would be pooled together and available on a first come, first served basis, which I think is what's happening right now. By far and away, the majority of land involved in Prairie Spring turkey season involves private land where permission to hunt is required. These changes to the application process would allow multiple drawing opportunities for the Prairie Spring turkey license for every South Dakota resident. And this would allow licenses to far more sportsmen and sportswomen that have permission to hunt on private land. I'll stand by for questions.
Very good, thank you. Any questions for Mr. West at this time? If not, we'll hear from the department and we may have some follow-ups.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. So you heard the petition from Mr. West. Again, he's asking for a change to the drawing structure. Do you want to go back a year ago, basically this month, we did bring forward as a department a recommendation to adjust the draw structure 1 year ago. What the adjustment was that you made last year, again, as Mr. West just described, the first draw, the second draw, you can obtain a license, the residents, non-residents. The non-residents have a 8% issuance on those units with the limited draw, for non-resident allocation. Then you get to the third draw where licenses are pooled. The old structure, once we got to that third draw, you could obtain up to 4 more licenses if you already had a license through the first draw, or you could have a total of 5 through the third draw. And then if there were licenses left over, once you got to the fourth draw, they were first come, first serve. So then individuals would go up and pick in extra licenses. The change that was made last year was, as Mr. West just described, in the first draw and the second draw, you can get a license. Then in the third draw, we took away, you can get up to 4 more and just changed it to 1. So you could obtain 1. So ultimately that meant you could have 2 spring turkey licenses through the first 3 draws. And if there were licenses remaining when you get to the fourth draw, which are the leftover, first come, first serve, unlimited number. The reason we brought forward that particular rule change primarily was to look at ways to get more licenses in the hands of individual hunters and taking away that 4 and going with the 1 in the third draw. Looking at some quick analysis of some of those draw statistics from this year, which would have been the first year in comparison to 2023. Again, just over 1 year, that we certainly seem to have accomplished that. In comparing 23 from the old structure to 24 with the new structure, for those individuals, once we got into that third draw, we had a little over 300 more hunters received at least 1 license. So we had additional hunters obtaining a license and getting out to the field. When we look, and that was going through the third draw, when we look through the entire season and go back, we had over 225 individuals that had at least 1 license in their hands more than what we did in 2023. So the structure that we had put in place last year, we being used the commission making that change, certainly did accomplish getting more licenses in hands of individual hunters. So certainly what Mr. West brings forward here today is going after that same accomplishment, wanting to get more licenses in the hands of hunters. When we look at this again, knowing that we just brought forward the change 1 year ago, essentially this month or this meeting, we would respectfully offer up to you at this point in time to deny the proposal, give us another year to formulate and evaluate what happens over 2 years or 3 years. And if there's more opportunities to get more licenses in the hands of hunters, I will say also an important point to this, we got more hunters in the field. We also had the same number of licenses available for both years. So we basically start out the same number of hunters because of our 2-year cycle, same number of licenses out there. We got more hunters in the field with the new structure that's in place. Knowing this was just implemented a year ago, we'd certainly like to see at least another year, maybe 2 years. We can look at this, we can evaluate it each year and see if additional changes would deserve merit to that from the standpoint of getting more licenses in the hands of hunters. So Madam Chair, that's where we stand right now, and I would certainly stand by to answer any questions or provide any other information for you.
Very good. Thank you, Director Kirschman. Questions or comments at this time for either the petitioner or Director Kirschman? Comments or questions from the commission? Commissioner Teal.
Commissioner Teal, do you know by chance the number of people that hold more than one of those turkey licenses?
Madam Chair, so when we look at the 2024 results of this spring turkey hunting season, quick overview, and again, this is putting all the units together. This is not by individual units. We had 5,954 hunters had one license, 475 had two, 64 had three, 25 four, 14 5, 4 hunters had 6, and then there's a couple more all the way down to 15. So the vast majority of our hunters had one license. And then the next, having 2 licenses, were 475. So those individuals are certainly getting their licenses under the current structure if they wanted a license. Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? With that, do we have any type of a motion, a second? I guess I will just say this, because I think we're getting ready to move forward with a motion of some sort. From what I hear from Mr. West and the department, I think both have the same intent in mind, is to get more license in the hands of hunters, which we appreciate and we applaud. I do lean towards this newly adopted version that we adopted last year about this time. I'm hesitant to change it. I would like to give more opportunity to see how it goes. It looks like we were able to put more license in the hands of hunters over this past year. And as Director Kirschman had mentioned, it would be nice to give it another year to evaluate that once more, put those numbers together, and then see if we need to look at a change, but give us the opportunity, more time to collect data and see where we fall.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner White.
Madam Chair. I move to deny the petition, but on the other hand, I really appreciate the ingenuity of bringing this to our attention. I agree that this is a short process that we've had at this point, and so we haven't probably got a record of how it's going to move forward. But I do like the ingenuity that people are bringing forward to improve our process. So at this point, I would move to deny the petition. Thank you.
We have a motion to deny. We do need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Lofton. Comments on the motion? No additional comments? All right, with that, we will vote. All those in favor of denying the petition, say aye. Aye.
Bartling votes aye.
Those opposed? The motion to deny is adopted. Thank you, Director Kirschman, and Mr. West, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we are going to continue. Now we will move back to number 7. This is the license fee package. Director Kirschman will stay with us as we move into the wildlife division portion of this particular item.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission and Secretary Roebling. I'm going to continue on with the PowerPoint that Director Van Meteren and Deputy Secretary Simpson started earlier in the day on the fee package from the department. Obviously, on the next couple of slides that I'm going to visit about focuses on the Division of Wildlife, or the hunting and fishing license piece of this overall fee package. So bottom line, commissioners, when we look at this, the primary reason why we did the evaluation looking at the need for revenue from a potential license fee package is to maintain our programs and services and expand where possible. Deputy Secretary Simpson talked earlier about how he described probably the focal points between the parks being on that asset management and on the divisional wildlife sides, more on that programmatic and services that we do. But I'm also going to talk about some of the asset management, because our asset management is a little bit different look in the wildlife side than it is on the parks division side. But we really look at this to maintain programs and services. Obviously, within the wildlife division, we're extremely heavy on the program side, whether we're talking about habitat and access, whether we're talking about programs that we offer up to landowners. When we talk about services, we're talking about wildlife damage, ADC, our licensing office, all the different services that we provide, education programs and forums, all those things that folks look forward to and provide the maximum amount of opportunities to enjoy hunting and fishing experiences here in South Dakota. As it's been talked about already, we obviously, over the last couple of years, have been what I would consider probably very diligent in where we were prioritizing our funds and our efforts and activities. And through budget adjustments and implementing cost-saving measures, and obviously maximizing the federal aid that's been available to us, like the Pittman Robertson and Dingell Johnson funds that we've had numerous conversations about, we've been able to maintain those programs and services at a level that we want to be at, and also, quite honestly, at the level that is expected from us, from the public as well, whether we're talking specifically landowners or our sportsmen and women enjoying the hunting and fishing opportunities in South Dakota. What I would offer to you, now we're at a point though, based on the cost saving measures and the adjustments that we've made, and looking at the cost of doing business, how that's gone up, no different than what Director Van Meteren shared with you earlier this morning. We have identified a need of approximately $5 to $5.5 million to help us moving forward with our programs and services and managing our things in the wildlife division as well. So, as I mentioned, looked at the need and identified about $5 to $5.5 million. And I'm going to get into some of these numbers a little bit more detail when we go through the licenses. But when we looked at where those fees would come from, we looked at all of our hunting and fishing license fees, trapping, all those things. A good number of the majority of those, we are bringing forward a recommendation for some level of adjustment. As Deputy Secretary Simpson said earlier today, there are adjustments that are being brought forward for both residents and non-residents, but certainly you will see a higher level of focus on the non-resident part. A lot of that being from conversations, discussions we've had internally, as with the commission, and what has been brought forward by, quite honestly, the users, in particular residents of South Dakota. Even earlier today in the open forum, you heard comments in respect to that concept again. And so that's certainly nothing new to us. So when you look at the overall adjustments or recommendations that we're bringing forward, ultimately comes to approximately 1.1 million from residents and 4.2 million from non-residents. And how we derive these numbers were based off the 2023 license sales and looking specifically at those. Now, again, that is a time shot or a picture in a moment, right? Those are the licenses that we sold in 2023. What I would also offer up to you when we think about this, why we also were able to maintain our programs and services over the last 3 to 4 years, 5 years, is also because our fishing and hunting license sales have remained strong. Had they gone the other way, we would have had probably more challenges. But what we do see and what we continue to see are hunting and fishing license sales remaining strong, and in some cases, slowly going up. So these are being projected revenues based on the 2023 licenses that were sold with the recommended adjustments that we've shared with you and that we're going to go over here. And if that base continues to be maintaining or increasing, then obviously that revenue projection will adjust accordingly. When you look at it from a residency standpoint, again, I said that burden is probably heavier on the non-resident side. These license recommendations that we bring forward to you today is about a 13% increase on the resident side and about a 24% increase on the non-resident side of the list of license fees that we're going to look at. Collectively, totality, again, just a little over a 20% increase. But on the hunting and fishing licenses, because everything is sold by resident and non-resident licenses, you can see the breakdown here by the residency. Again, as been mentioned, 2014 was the last year that we had a fee package in front of the commission for hunting and fishing licenses. Obviously, we want to maintain the high standards of customer service and programs to provide those opportunities that our users are looking for, while, as Director Van Meter said, also remain affordable. We don't want to price people out from participating in hunting and fishing in South Dakota, but also to look at and to adjust accordingly for the cost of doing business and the inflationary rates that we have seen for many pieces of the work we do. So the next 4 slides, I'm going to go over the breakdown of both resident and non-resident fee adjustment recommendations. The first slide here is for resident, small game, and fishing licenses. Again, primary reason why you're going to see 4 slides here is I broke it up basically in half so it's easier to see. And so there's no particular reason why, but it was just easier to break it down by small game and fishing. And so this is what you see in front of you. This is resident specific. So when you look at the top, there is the various fishing licenses that are available to our resident sportsmen and women. You can see the fee increases range from $2 to $5, depending on the specific license that you might be looking at. A combination of licenses that we do offer are obviously very popular license types in our repertoire of license that we offer, and you can see the adjustments there. Small game hunting, again, another popular license type, $3 adjustments there for small game. Waterfowl, we have just a couple of tags because most hunters utilize their small game or a combination license to hunt waterfowl. But these are some limited draw licenses, and you can see the range from $3 to $5 there. And then fur bear and predator varmint is a $1 adjustment from those respective licenses as well. So you can see in general, for small game and fishing, it literally ranges from about $1 to $5 on the resident side of things. Now, resident big game licenses, apologize for the numbers are a little bit smaller here, but did want to provide on one slide the various big game licenses. A lot of these are limited draw, some are over the counter, obviously, from turkey, deer, antelope, elk, and then mountain goat, bighorn sheep, and mountain lion. You look at turkey at the top, again, the different spring and fall license options that we have available to our resident hunters. Again, those license fee adjustments range from $3 to $5 for the respective turkey licenses. On deer, there is a laundry list of licenses that we make available to our resident hunters. One key point I do want to share with you and the listeners looking at this, you'll see license types that are 2-tag and license types that are 3-tag. 3-tag have been in place since about 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. We were at a time where we had extremely high deer numbers across the state. We were dealing with a lot of depredation. We actually implemented a 3-tag license option at that time for the standpoint of when an individual is out there deer hunting to help with meeting the harvest objectives and reducing the numbers. So we have a 3-tag, but that 3-tag license was at the same price as a 2-tag. It was more of an incentive to help with harvest. So you're going to see those are included in here as well. They are listed at the same price as a 2-tag license as they have been in the past. But again, there are some adjustments here for deer. Deer and antelope are going to, as you look at it very closely, the same type of license type. For example, a deer 1-tag any versus a 1-tag any or a buck and antelope, you're going to see those at the same price and the same recommended fee adjustment level. In our system, and as what we have as department for quite some time, we've treated those license types very similar or the same when we were looking at deer and antelope hunting seasons. So that's why you'll see very, very similar, if not identical, license adjustment recommendations for the various license types. Again, ranging anywhere from $4 to $10, depending on the license type. You will see on both special buck under deer and special antelope Under the antelope, you would see a recommended increase of $25 for the special buck. Again, fewer numbers available of those particular licenses, provide some special opportunities or unique opportunities for hunting, and hence why you see a higher level of recommended fee adjustment for those. Elk hunting season, we have two license types, any elk and antlerless. You see a moderate increase for 20 for the any elk and 11 for the antlerless elk. Again, highly coveted licenses. People are very excited and looking forward to elk hunting opportunities, and those are the recommended fee adjustments for those particular licenses. Mountain goat, bighorn sheep, a $20 increase. Again, highly coveted licenses. Again, numbers are very minimal, right? When you look at it from a revenue generation standpoint, because we only have a couple of licenses that we issue on an annual basis. And then mountain lion, the recommended change of increasing that fee by $2. Now, flipping over to the non-resident side of things, first slide here is non-resident small game and fishing. Again, when you look closely at it and compare it to the resident side of things, you are going to see larger fee adjustment recommendations for the similar type of licenses. So we look at fishing on the non-resident side, we have annual 1 day, 3 day, and paddlefish are the main fishing licenses that we offer. Annual recommended fee increase of 13, the 1 day increase of 10, and the 3 day increase of 8. Very popular licenses. Obviously, we have a strong contingency of anglers coming to South Dakota for our very premier fishing opportunities, whether it's fishing on the river for walleye, fishing in the Northeast glacial lakes for walleye, panfish, perch fishing, whether it's summer fishing, whether it's ice fishing, right? It doesn't matter. We have a lot of folks wanting to come to experience our high quality and premier fishing opportunities in South Dakota. Small game, there's the 10-day license. The recommended change here would be $21. Obviously, the non-resident small game license is probably one of the most important, if not the most important single license type in all license types that we sell from a budgetary perspective. The income from non-resident small game licenses oftentimes carry the weight from somewhere between 13 and 19% of our total revenue that we generate for our budget. So we still are the #1 place to go pheasant hunting. Most states, when you go pheasant hunting, average harvest per an individual might range from 3 to 6. And in South Dakota, it's 9 or 9+. And so we know that we still are the premier pheasant hunting place in the world, quite honestly. And hence our recommendation there at 21 for the small game non-resident license. Shooting preserve, again, some small adjustments there. 1 day of $4, the 5 day $20, and then the annual is a $25 adjustment there as well. The 5 day of those 3 license types are the most popular, the most widely used ones on the shooting preserves. The other 2 are at a much, much smaller number. Waterfowl, you can see the different license types that we have for waterfowl, the 10-day or the annual, the 3-day temporary. There's the spring light goose, early fall Canada goose, tundra swan. Again, you see similar type of adjustments here, the 10-day at $29 adjustment. With that $29 adjustment, the license fee for that would be equivalent to the out the door price for a regular small game 10-day license as well. There are just different fees associated with the 2 license types, but at the end of the day, walking out the door, they would end up being the same price. A 3-day increase of $25 up to $100 for waterfowl there as well. Fur bear, you see adjustment of $50. We only have a handful at best. Usually that number is very small of non-residents that come in and obtain a fur bear license, but it is a coveted one and looked at that from a increase of 50. And then predator varmint increased by 6. Now, non-resident big game. This is probably where you will see, and sportsmen and women of South Dakota and our non-resident hunters will see the highest level of recommended adjustments. This is where the majority of our conversations have occurred from license fee adjustments. Again, turkey, deer, antelope are the three primary big game species that are available to non-resident hunting opportunities. So first, looking at turkey, we've got the spring 1 and 2 tags and the fall 1 and 2 tags. You will see adjustments from 21 and 26 for the spring turkey licenses and 16 and 31 for the fall tag licenses. We've heard numerous times comments about the prices related to turkey hunting licenses. And so you can see the range goes from 16 up to 31 on the turkey hunting licenses for recommended adjustments. Deer is where deer and antelope, again, same type of license types in deer and antelope, just like I explained, and we covered on the resident side as well. This is where you would see from actual fee adjustment, the largest fee adjustments that can be found within our recommendations. You look at a 1 tag license, whether it's deer or antelope, current fee price is $280. The recommended fee increase would be $89, jumping it up to $369. And then you can see associated 2 tag licenses with similar type of adjustments. And then the 3 tag licenses. On the antlerless side of looking at licenses, you will see a smaller amount, but increases there as well from $20 to $30 for those license types as well. So the range would be from $20 to basically $89 for the regular license fees for deer and antelope. Again, depends on the tag or the license type, whether it's a single tag, a double tag, what kind of tag that might be. But you can see that's where the most substantial adjustments were made. You will also see on special buck under deer and special antelope under the antelope, a $90 recommended increase for that particular license. That would bump that up, both of those respective licenses, to $644. You know, there's a lot of conversations about the big game licenses and the associated fees. Obviously, similar to what Director Van Meteren just shared with you and discussed with you, looking at surrounding states and other states in comparison to fees. There is challenges within some of these hunting and fishing, especially big game, because nobody does apples to apples in terms of how they do their license structure and how they sell those various license types. But in general, when you look at these adjustments, we're certainly going to be in that neighborhood, a little bit less and a little bit more from several of the surrounding states. So we believe that these are some very fair, but also appropriate fee adjustment recommendations for these big game licenses. And then the last one I would point out is at the bottom in respect to preference points. Remember, right now, a preference point for a resident is $5. A preference point to be purchased by a non-resident is $10. Our recommendation here is to increase that by 10 for a total of $20 to purchase a preference point for a non-resident hunter. So those are the 4 slides that show the actual fee recommendations. You have those action sheets or the tables in front of you as well. So a quick overview, the projection of those hunting and fishing fee adjustments, and I shared this in the introductory slide, on the resident side would be about $1.1 million. On the non-resident side would be about $4.2 million with a total of right around that 5.3 to 5.4. Again, based on the 2023 license sales that we had for all these respective licenses. Again, from the resident standpoint, that looks at an increase right at approximately 13%. And for the non-resident type licenses, that would be an increase at 24%. So almost double of what the increases would be for the resident side of fee adjustments. Now, I am going to switch gears here just a little bit and transition into one fee that we will talk about in the action sheet that would be a brand new fee as part of this fee package. And this is in respect to the Habitat Conservation Specialty Plate. This was an item that was brought forward as a bill and passed in the legislative session in 2024, House Bill 1119, and created this Habitat Conservation Specialty Plate. This was in an effort to, number one, raise additional funds for habitat, but maybe even more importantly, make the awareness and promoting the concept of conservation and the need for habitat across the state of South Dakota. And this is just a great way for people that have a high interest in habitat and conservation to show their support for what we're doing here in South Dakota. The statute that was passed and put in place also had language in there for the commission to promulgate rule to set the fee for the emblem, or if I may call it the sticker, that would go on the license plate itself. And so what we are bringing forward as a recommendation would be a $50 fee for the set of emblems that would go on a vehicle, a car, a pickup, those types of vehicles, or $30 for motorcycles and ultimately ATVs as well, where you have one license plate. The concepts looking at would give options to people: pheasant, deer, a non-game bird, and even like a pasque flower and different things. So it is attractive and appealing to multiple folks that want to show support and show their pride in doing conservation habitat in South Dakota. The emblems themselves that can go on the plates will be able to be acquired or purchased on the GFP website, or we will also have them available at our GFP offices across the state. Again, it is also important that I should state that those are voluntary emblems for on those plates. It is not a requirement to do that. You purchase the plate at the county treasurer's office like you do all your other vehicle plates with the associated fees, but then the emblems would be the fees for, or the fees in this that we're asking you to set is for the emblems themselves. The fee will come to the department and it would be specifically used for habitat on private and public lands. So similar to what Director Van Meter described, where does the money go? And what would we use these funds from these recommended fees for? So first and foremost, the top priority in the Wildlife Division is habitat and access. We've been preaching this for the last 3-4 years. We have not waned from that. Even in times when we were doing budgetary adjustments, reducing or cutting equipment purchases or other things that we need to do our work, we have never waned away from putting funds towards habitat and access. And so these funds will help us to maintain those efforts for doing access for hunters, sportsmen and women to go hunting, fishing on private land, but available through public access. And it will also help us maintain our efforts on doing habitat work across the state, both on public lands and on private lands as well. In fact, we look back 3 years and our amount of funds that we are spending on habitat and access has gone up by 33%. Now that has been on purpose. That is a deliberate decision that we have been making because we believe that strongly in habitat and access, and providing those opportunities, providing for the resources, and ultimately is what's going to create and provide opportunities for sportsmen and women. The funds would be utilized by us to match other funds that are available, whether that's through federal, state, or other NGO programs that are out there, non-government organizations, partners like Pheasants Forever, Turkey Federation, Ducks Unlimited, all the other ones that we work with. A key part to what we would use these funds for as well is maintaining a lot of the new habitat plots that we have done over the last several years as well. It's one thing to go establish them, but then there's also the maintenance and the operation of them as well. So that's a huge part of what we do on the habitat side of things. And again, this is going to help us just from the cost of doing business. Again, whether we're talking about the materials that we need to do habitat and access, the equipment that we use and need to manage our properties or do these things, and then the staff that make that happen. None of our habitat and access successes that we've experienced over the last several years happen without our staff. And we've talked numerous times about, we reached our goal of 1.5 million plus acres of private land enrolled into public access. That doesn't happen without staff, right? It takes time to do that. They have to build relationships. They got to spend time with them. And so that's a big part of the cost of doing business. Also for us, customer service is huge. It's one of the primary pillars that we work on a daily basis. The 3 areas that I have listed here are not the only 3 where these funds would be used to maintain the services that we do, but I think these are 3 excellent examples to share with you where we would utilize these funds. First, law enforcement. maintain and fill vacant positions. So when we look in the wildlife division, we're just under 300 staff that exist within the division. Approximately 84, 85 of those could be conservation officers. They are a key part of our agency. They deliver habitat and access, and they do a whole lot more than that. But there's a lot of costs associated with vehicles, boats, and other equipment that our officers use. And so staff support and the trainings that they do is critical to maintain for their safety and for their preparedness and for delivering programs on the ground for our agency. But a key thing for this is we have to utilize licensed dollars because our Pittman-Robertson funds that we get, law enforcement activities and expenditures are not eligible. Education. We're sitting in the Outdoor Campus West facility right now. The number of students and people that come through these facilities and the one over at the Sioux Falls office, these funds will help us maintain programs and services that we provide, Hunting 101, all the different classes, everything that we are focused on to retain, recruit hunters out there and get more people in the outdoors. And also, quite honestly, to again, going from the staffing standpoint to help backfill some vacant positions that we have had as well. A key service that we provide, you could call it a program, but quite often we look at it more as a service, is what we do with landowners and producers when it comes to our wildlife damage program. These funds will help us assure that we have the funds available when we have, for example, a really tough winter and we're dealing with a lot of deer depredation, elk depredation, turkey depredation. We look back at the winter of 2022, and I don't have to look far looking at Commissioner Locke and Commissioner Whitmire. We know how tough of a winter it can be in that part of the state as well as any other part of the state. That particular year, we spent over $1 million on deer depredation alone. Quite often you can't just simply plan for that. And thankfully last winter, we didn't have that same type of expenditure or didn't have that hard of a winter. But having the fees available can assure that we can always help those folks that contact us requesting service. And we have always taken the approach, even looking at the last couple of years, we don't turn people down. Where we can help them, we're going to help them. The fees would be essential, and the equipment that we use in our depredation services. An example, again, talking about deer and others, the panels that we use, sometimes we loan them, sometimes it's through permanent agreements over a longer period of time. You folks and commissioners working on the farm and ranches know that steel has gone up considerably as well, whether you're talking fence posts, whether you're talking panels or other materials that you use, we're going to be facing and have been facing those same things. Animal Damage Control, or ADC program, this will help us fund those requests for services dealing with coyote and prairie dog issues. We do have dedicated funding sources. Some of that comes from our agency, but every year we do not have the overall dollar amounts that are needed by the dedicated funding source. That is fulfilled by using licensed dollars. And we do it because we understand the importance of working with our landowners and producers, ranchers across the entire state of South Dakota on dealing with these types of things. And so to maintain our level of services, that's where we're talking about these fee packages. Two other areas that I do want to talk about are asset management and operational excellence. Asset management, as I said a few moments ago, is a little bit different than what Director Van Meteren described on the park side. Park side, we're really talking about all of the different building structures, the state park system that has to be managed. On the divisional wildlife side, yes, we do have a few facilities, our offices, but you can even look at our 280 game production areas across the state as an asset management piece. We have management, we have weed control, we have maintenance of the habitat on there, fencing, all those different things. So that plays into there as well. So from an asset management, the fee adjustments, we're really looking at it to help looking at dealing with a lot of the inflationary increases to conduct business. Utilities and operations of our facilities and offices have gone up. Jeff mentioned the same thing from communications, technology support, those types of things have gone up. We have deferred maintenance on our offices and facilities as well. And as you walked in, you saw folks working on the bridge coming over the pond as well. on our facilities, we have some deferred maintenance that we need to work on as well. Replacement of equipment and replacement maintenance of our vehicle fleet. We don't get any work done across the state, whether we're talking about doing habitat and access, ADC, WDM, education, whatever it is. We have a big fleet of vehicles, and for our staff to be able to go out and do their work, that is a big part of taking care of replacing and maintenance of vehicles so we can get our work done. And another asset management that is highly important to our agency is facilitating fish production. And there we're talking about where we've been getting close, and we're getting close to completing our expansions at Cleghorn and McNenny. We're going to start RAS capabilities at Blue Dog. I mentioned that earlier with the hiring of our new manager up there. And then necessary equipment for the distribution of the fish that we do produce. Our hatcheries are a vital part of what we do in getting people in the outdoors, providing those opportunities, working on urban and community fisheries. But we also rely upon it extremely heavily when we do have the scenarios where we have drought conditions, we have winter kills, and when we have to do our stocking efforts to get those ponds and lakes back into where we want them to be. And from an operational excellence, we're really talking about our staff. A key part of the work that we get done on an annual basis is completed through support from seasonal and intern positions. Whether we're talking about wildlife damage, whether we're talking about education, our hatcheries, our Canada goose depredation program, whatever it might be, we rely on seasonal staff and interns to help get that work done. The other part of being able to have those folks on, they are an excellent recruiting tool for new employees in the future. There are many staff that we have hired on in recent time that have actually come through our intern program or have been a seasonal employee. So it's a great recruitment pool as well for looking at future staff. Provide more opportunity and trainings and continued education for our staff. And just as important, ensure that we have the equipment needs that are met, whether it's simple things from computers that need to be replaced, again, to vehicles, software, things like that. So to kind of wrap that up, where the funds go, again, the number one priority is to maintain our programs and services. We have high expectations of ourselves to provide high quality programs, making sure people have opportunities. And at the same time, we expect a lot out of ourselves in providing the services to people, whether that's what you might define as simple customer service or providing services to people on the land, getting their licenses. Honestly, you can even look at services from the standpoint of, look at what our law enforcement staff did that we described during the flooding scenario down in this far southeast part of the state. People look at those type of events, they expect us to be there, and we will be there. But that is a big part of the fee package in front of you today from the wildlife side, is to maintain our programs and services. Habitat access, customer service, asset management. Again, I've mentioned it already, but we maintain programs and services because of our strategic approaches with the budgeting, cost-saving measures, and then fortunately in recent years, the level of federal aid that we've been coming our way on an annual basis, in particular the Pittman-Robertson funds. But I can say with confidence, without the fee adjustment going in place, we're going to have to make some decisions, and some of these programs and services will likely be reduced. That projection revenue that I shared with you, that 5 to 5.5 million, again, really breaks down to 1.1 from residents at about a 13% increase and a 4.2 million at a 24% increase for non-residents. What I also talked about, just the establishment of the fee for the Habitat Conservation Specialty Plate for those emblems to go on there. And again, these revenues will allow us to deliver opportunities and provide the best possible services and programs. We're dedicated, we're committed to this. The staff in the Wildlife Division are extremely dedicated to the programs and services that we do. And we want to be able to continue those services and programs to provide the premier hunting and fishing experiences that we all see and share and experience in South Dakota. So that is the the last slide I had from the wildlife side, and I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And then I think Secretary Simpson's gonna come up with the last slide and talk about a few things. Excuse me, Deputy Secretary, I saw the look over there and I just about grabbed my stuff and jumped out the window here. So all joking aside, but Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you and try to answer any questions that you may have.
Very good, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments at this time for Director Kirschman? Are you saying yes?
Just start at one end and.
I think we should wait till they all three come up this way.
That's fine. If you'd like to do that, we can certainly do that.
All right.
We'll hear from, it sounds like the commission would like to hear from everyone before we come
Okay.
forward with questions. So Deputy Secretary Simpson, are you ready for your final comments?
Sorry. Deputy Secretary Scott Simpson. Clear the air there. Yeah, got next slide. I'm trying. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that we were a little detailed on this. I apologize for the length, but this is a big step for us. We don't come to the commission for fee increases very often. And when we do, we want to make sure that you have the information that you need to make these decisions and make sure that we are giving you the justification to make these decisions because, yeah, we understand that we're reaching into people's pockets and we're users ourselves. None of us want to pay any more than we have to. And we feel like these adjustments are reasonable, but they also get us where we feel like we need to be. We think that we can make these increases last. We're hoping that this is a 5-year plan for us. That would be our intent. We got to get some things to cooperate with us too, right? If we get some inflation numbers like we've had in the past, who knows? But that is our plan right now, is to run this for 5 years and see where we're at. So anyway, I just wrapping things up. I appreciate what Jeff and Tom put together. A lot of thought and hard work that went into this, trying to prepare you guys. Again, it gets lengthy, but this is a big step for all of us, and we want to make sure that everybody's prepared to do it. We're ready to take some questions, whether that be to Tom, be to Jeff, myself. We would certainly entertain those, and then we'll wrap up and move towards the action that's required by the commission.
Very good, thank you. Commissioner Cole.
Commissioner Cole, if you guys could share the mic, it'd be a lot easier. Oh, you got one. All right. So I'm going to start with Jeff. Just a quick breakdown. I can't find it, and maybe you said it, on the percentage of the non-resident versus the resident overall.
Through the chair.
Yes, please.
Commissioner Cole, the breakdown, we cannot provide you with a breakdown overall of the non-residents or the residents on the park side. We don't receive a lot of the information on the park entrance licenses. What I can tell you is both through our kiosk and our online sales, we feel like conservatively 20% of our entrance fees are non-resident based. The 80% or less would be resident based. But unlike the wildlife division, I can't break those two down.
Because you don't keep the, okay. But roughly your overall, you said, what was it, 20.2 when Secretary Rogan asked at the end?
Our fee package as a whole, the fees that we're increasing represent a 20.2% increase.
That's just Parks and Rec.
That's just.
Okay, that's what I wanted to be clear. Yeah, and I just want to follow up. I mean, I think you guys did an excellent job. It's the first time I've seen you have to do this. And I think it's great. And all joking aside, I mean, this is a critical point, not only in this department, but in the country. And I think it's really imperative people understand what's going on. And I think your explanation of basically the asset management, what things fell in line for us to do what we did, but we're past that point. And I mean, everybody knows what things are going up. You address this in a way to not only handle it immediately, but even looking to the future a few years. And, I mean, everybody should be commended on doing that. I mean, that's a tough job and, I think you did excellent, so.
Very good, Commissioner. Additional questions or comments? Commissioner Whitmire.
Yeah, Commissioner Whitmire, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you guys did a good job on this. I had, great job. One of the things, kind of thinking about the resident fishing, residents, I'm pretty sure that non-residents don't have any kind of boat licensing fee. So a resident fisherman with a boat ends up $61 for an annual cost with him and his boat, whereas a non-resident coming in with a boat is just his tag, which is 80. So, it kind of feels like an extra $10 on that one would get you a little more on the non-resident. I mean, in line with, just because of that fishing, that boat license.
Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
I completely understand where you're coming from, Commissioner Whitmire. I would also make sure that everybody understands too that the habitat stamp is included in that. So a non-resident has an additional $25 on top of that, whereas a resident would have 10. So that does kind of, the spread that you're talking about is probably increased a little bit too when we add in habitat stamp and those kinds of things. So there are other fees that are incurred here, a license agent fee as well. For a non-resident, it's $8. For a resident, it's $4. So there's even more there than maybe what's on this piece of paper. These are addressed specifically at the license fees that are in rule and how much that increase is. So that, not trying to argue with you about it, just want to make sure that everybody's got the information.
Additional questions, comments?
Yeah, thank you. That gets you closer to 70 versus 105, which is exactly 50%. So, yeah, thank you. And then deer resident, it's listed as currently 34. They're $40, I believe, for a deer tag.
So again, sorry, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
please.
Again, the key here is when you look at these fees in here, these are the actual fees that are in administrative rule. Now, license types, so various license types, there's the fee and then some have a surcharge. And in that case, that's where that would be that higher number. So some licenses have a surcharge applied to them as well. Some licenses have an agent fee applied to them. None of that is included in these particular. We are just strictly talking about what the license fee is in administrative rule and then the associated adjustment recommendation.
Okay, yeah, just it was a little confusing with 34 versus, because the new fee is 39 and I know it's already 40. So, all right, thank you.
Excellent. Any additional questions from the commission? Comments? I will just say this. I know as we were putting this together, the department worked with a subcommittee that included Commissioner White, Commissioner Bartling, and myself. And the information that was provided went back many years to look at the fees and the different levels throughout the divisions that we looked at, in addition to our surrounding states and what they're doing. So I think as we worked together as a team to provide input, suggestions, what we have before us is a lot of hard work, and I applaud all of you for including the commission and making sure we have the information that we need. And it will be interesting to give the public the opportunity to weigh in on what we move forward with today. So if we don't have any additional questions or comments, we do need a motion and a second to move forward with this. I do have one question though, Director Kirschman. The license emblem, is that included in this or do we, it is?
So Madam Chair, I think I'll turn it over to Deputy Secretary Simpson. Is in your book is the action sheet, and the action sheet would basically cover all of the fee adjustments, both on the Division of Parks, Division of Wildlife. It has the emblem there, and then also the non-resident fee side of the park. So maybe Scott, if you want to take that over.
Madam Chair, page 13 of your books is the proposal for the department fee adjustments. By adopting the proposal without as it was presented to you today, that'll open up several chapters, which include all of the fees that were referenced today. Several different chapters, fees are kind of all throughout our rule process. But it would include the adjustments that were presented today for Parks and Recreation. It would create a new rule for charging non-residents a different park entrance license fee than residents, because that's not out there right now. That's a new fee. And then, it would adjust the wildlife, fees, fishing, hunting. And then it would also create the fee for the emblem, on the conservation plate. So if your desire is to move forward with things as they were presented today, that's what we would need is a motion to adopt the proposal on page 13 and the supportive information after that.
Very good. Thank you
So
for that.
moved.
Moved by Commissioner Cole, seconded by Commissioner Teal. Any comments on the motion to adopt the proposal and all of the items included in it? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the proposal, say aye. Aye.
Bartling votes aye.
Those opposed? It is adopted.